What would happen if a company from outside the traditional pharmaceutical powerhouses, one that most people have never even heard of, suddenly changed the world of cancer medicine? Imagine the shockwaves across the global pharmaceutical industry, the scramble in boardrooms from New York to Basel to Shanghai, and the hope that would ripple through communities everywhere struggling with deadly disease. Today, we're diving deep into just such a story, the meteoric rise of an Indian biotech player that has forced the world to rethink what innovation looks like and who gets to lead it. In early July of the year 2025, a headline blazed across the screens of investors, scientists, and policymakers around the globe. Glenmark Pharmaceuticals, a company historically known for affordable generic drugs, had inked a licensing deal with American pharmaceutical giant AbbVie. The deal's total potential value? Up to $2 billion US. That's $2,000 million, an amount that would have seemed unimaginable for an Indian firm in the world of high-stakes biotech just a decade ago. At the very heart of this alliance lies a single, experimental compound, ISB 2001. This is not just any medications. ISB 2001 is a trispecific antibody therapy, a new class of biologic designed to target multiple myeloma, one of the most aggressive and deadly blood cancers known to medicine. It is engineered to engage the immune system on three distinct fronts, simultaneously binding to multiple targets on cancer cells and activating T cells to attack. For the tens of thousands of people around the world living with relapsed or treatment-resistant multiple myeloma, every new therapy represents a potential lifeline. For many, it's the difference between despair and hope. But why does this disease matter? Multiple myeloma is not a household name like breast or lung cancer, yet it is insidious, affecting plasma cells in bone marrow, disrupting the immune system, and leading to symptoms like bone pain, fatigue, and frequent infections. It is considered incurable, with patients often cycling through a series of increasingly toxic therapies as the disease outsmarts one drug after another. Survival rates have improved over the years, but relapse is common, and options dwindle with each failed treatment. Here's where ISB 2001 stands apart. In early clinical trials, this trispecific antibody has demonstrated results that many in the oncology community have described as nothing short of stunning. In a phase 1 study involving patients who had already failed multiple lines of advanced therapy, including CR T-cell treatments and bispecific antibodies, ISB 2001 achieved an overall response rate of nearly 80%. To put that into perspective, almost 4 out of every 5 patients saw their cancer shrink or disappear. Even more remarkable, approximately 1 in 3 achieved a complete response, meaning no detectable cancer remained. These are patients for whom all other options had been exhausted. Recognizing the urgency and the promise of these results, the United States Food and Drug Administration granted ISB 2001 Fast Track status. This regulatory designation is reserved for drugs that address serious unmet medical needs and have the potential to offer substantial improvements over existing therapies. Fast Track status means the drug's development and review will be accelerated, potentially bringing it to patients years sooner than would otherwise be possible. But this story is about far more than a single molecule. Glenmark's leap from generic drug manufacturer to biotech innovator is emblematic of a seismic shift underway in the global pharmaceutical industry. For decades, innovation in complex biologics and cutting-edge cancer therapies was dominated by companies headquartered in North America, Western Europe, and Japan. Emerging market players were often relegated to the sidelines, manufacturing generic copies of drugs at lower costs, but rarely earning a seat at the table where new medicines were created. The Glenmark AbbVie deal smashes that old narrative. Under the terms of the agreement, Glenmark will focus on commercializing ISB 2001 in emerging markets, Asia, Latin America, Africa, and regions often overlooked by the world's healthcare giants. AbbVie, meanwhile, secures exclusive rights for North America, Europe, Japan, and Greater China. This isn't just a licensing deal. It's a chess match on a global board, with each player betting on their unique strengths. Glenmark's immediate windfall is substantial, an upfront payment from AbbVie of $700 million. This infusion of capital is not just a reward for past innovation. It's a war chest for the future. Glenmark's management has indicated that these funds will be used to sustain and expand research and development activities for at least 3 years, fueling a new generation of multispecific antibody programs and possibly even new collaborations or acquisitions. Industry experts are calling this a watershed moment for both Indian science and global biotech. Rupal Thakkar, AbbVie's chief scientific officer, put it succinctly. Multispecifics, including trispecific antibodies, represent a new frontier in immuno-oncology, with the potential to deliver deeper, more durable responses. That's a technical way of saying these drugs may not just stop cancer temporarily, they could potentially keep it at bay for much longer, or even achieve cures in some cases. Glenmark's chairman, Glenn Saldanha, was even more direct. "We've gone through blood, sweat, and tears to get here. This validates everything we've built." So why does this matter? Not just for investors and patients, but for the global economy and for you, the viewer. First, consider the sheer scale of the opportunity. The global multiple myeloma market is projected to reach $37.5 billion by the year 2028, with annual growth rates above 8%. That's a market larger than the GDP of some small countries, and it's just one segment of the wider oncology space. AbbVie estimates that ISB 2001, if successful, could generate between $5 and $6 billion in peak annual sales. Glenmark, in turn, stands to collect more than $500 million in annual royalties, funding that could underwrite its research ambitions for years, if not decades, to come. But the economic implications go far beyond these headline numbers. The pharmaceutical sector is one of the world's most research-intensive industries, accounting for a significant share of private sector R&D investment globally. When a company from India, a nation historically seen as the world's pharmacy for affordable generics, begins to out-innovate and out-earn established players from the United States or Europe, it signals a tectonic shift. It suggests that the next blockbuster drugs may just as likely originate in Mumbai or Shanghai as in Boston or Basel. This is not happening in a vacuum. The pace of innovation in cancer therapy is white-hot. Just in the first quarter of the year 2025, license-out deals from China's pharmaceutical sector topped $36 billion, eclipsing the total for the entire previous year. Global pharma giants are pouring billions into next-generation treatments, from CAR T-cell therapies that reprogram a patient's own immune cells to target cancer, to bispecific and trispecific antibodies like ISB 2001 that can attack tumors on multiple fronts. Competition is fierce, with companies racing not only to develop the best science, but also to secure patents, gain regulatory approvals, and win market share. Yet every breakthrough comes with formidable challenges. Clinical trials are notoriously unpredictable. A drug that dazzles in early studies can stumble in larger, later-stage trials as new side effects emerge or efficacy wanes. Regulatory agencies, including the FDA and the European Medicines Agency, demand rigorous evidence of safety and benefit before granting full approval. Even then, market success is not assured. Physicians and patients must be convinced, insurers must agree to pay, and competitors are always nipping at your heels. For Glenmark, the stakes could not be higher. The company's future as a global innovator hinges not just on ISB 2001's success, but on its ability to scale up research, navigate complex regulatory environments, and commercialize breakthrough medicines in regions where healthcare infrastructure varies widely. Will Glenmark be able to leverage this windfall into a sustained pipeline of innovation? Or will it be outpaced by nimble rivals from China, Europe, or the United States, where investment in biotech runs deep and competition is relentless? AbbVie, too, is gambling. The company is betting that ISB 2001 will complement and strengthen its already formidable oncology portfolio, anchoring its position as a leader in the next generation of cancer care. Success would validate AbbVie's strategy of partnering with emerging market innovators, potentially opening the door to more such deals worldwide. Failure, on the other hand, would mean a costly setback and a missed opportunity in one of the industry's most lucrative therapeutic areas. Let's step back and look at the broader context. The pharmaceutical industry has always been a crucible of risk and reward. Drug development is a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar undertaking, with success rates for experimental cancer drugs often hovering below 10% from early discovery to final approval. Most molecules never make it past phase 2. For every headline-grabbing success, there are countless compounds that quietly disappear after disappointing results. So what makes ISB 2001 so promising? The science behind trispecific antibodies is still relatively new, but already there are signs that this approach could overcome some of the limitations of previous generations of therapies. By targeting 3 distinct proteins, CD3, BCMA, and CD38 on T cells and multiple myeloma cells, ISB 2001 can, in theory, achieve more precise and potent immune responses. Early data suggests superior efficacy compared to many existing treatments, with a safety profile that appears manageable so far. Of course, experts are quick to caution against early celebration. As Rupal Thakkar of AbbVie warns, multispecifics like trispecific antibodies are on the cutting edge, but each step forward brings new unknowns, adverse events, manufacturing hurdles, or unforeseen regulatory requirements could still derail the drug's journey. And as more competitors enter the field, the bar for success continues to rise. One of the most remarkable aspects of this story is the rise of research and development capabilities in India and other emerging economies. Glenmark's innovation journey was not built overnight. For years, the company poured more than $70 million annually into R&D, funding not just ISB 2001, but a pipeline of multispecific antibody candidates. This relentless, high-risk investment defied conventional wisdom, which held that companies from emerging markets should stick to generics and leave cutting-edge innovation to the West. Industry analysts now see Glenmark's deal with AbbVie as a validation of this bold strategy. Vineet Gala, an independent pharma analyst, observes that this deal makes Glenmark's innovation platform self-sustaining, an example of how patient, bold investment in research can rewrite a company's destiny. This shift is already reverberating through the investment community. For decades, global investors looking for exposure to pharmaceutical innovation focused on a handful of markets, namely the United States, Switzerland, Germany, and Japan. Now, as companies like Glenmark prove their ability to deliver world-class science and command billion-dollar deals, the center of gravity is tilting eastward. The rise of innovation hubs in India, China, and other emerging markets is likely to redraw the map of global pharma in the coming decades. For patients, especially those in regions historically left behind by medical breakthroughs, Glenmark's success could mean faster access to life-changing therapies. Under the old model, innovative drugs were often available only in wealthy countries, with emerging markets waiting years or even decades for access. By focusing commercialization efforts on Asia, Latin America, and Africa, Glenmark is trying to close this gap, potentially transforming outcomes for patients who previously had few options. There are also lessons here for entrepreneurs and business leaders everywhere. Glenmark's journey illustrates the power of long-term vision, the willingness to take risks, and the importance of investing in the right talent and technology. It is a reminder that innovation can thrive outside traditional centers, if supported by bold leadership and patient capital. But let's not gloss over the risks. The vast majority of new drugs fail in late-stage trials. Unexpected safety issues can emerge, regulatory hurdles can slow progress, and the commercial landscape can shift rapidly. Glenmark will need to manage manufacturing at scale, navigate complex intellectual property issues, and compete against both established multinationals and nimble biotech startups. Moreover, the multiple myeloma market is anything but static. New therapies are emerging at a breakneck pace. CAR T-cell therapies, for example, have already transformed the treatment landscape, offering some patients the possibility of long-term remission. Other bispecific and trispecific antibodies are in development from companies in China, Europe, and the United States. In the first quarter of 2025 alone, Chinese license-out deals in innovative drugs surpassed $36 billion, signaling both competition and opportunity. For AbbVie, the acquisition of exclusive rights in North America, Europe, Japan, and Greater China is a strategic move to shore up its oncology pipeline as other blockbuster drugs approach the end of their patent protection. The company's leadership is betting that ISB 2001 can become a cornerstone therapy, anchoring its future growth in oncology. Analysts at Oppenheimer have reiterated an outperform rating on AbbVie's stock, reflecting confidence in the company's strategic direction and its willingness to bet big on external innovation. The stakes are enormous. If ISB 2001 maintains its efficacy and safety in Phase 2 and Phase 3 trials, it could redefine the standard of care for multiple myeloma. This would translate into not just billions in revenue, but also immeasurable impact for patients worldwide. Conversely, setbacks in development or commercialization could lead to financial losses and missed opportunities, highlighting the unforgiving nature of the pharmaceutical business. Looking ahead, Glenmark's innovation unit, IGI, is already planning for the future. Should ISB 2001 succeed in late-stage trials, IGI is expected to pursue an initial public offering. Such a move could see IGI valued among the highest echelons of biotech startups in the region, potentially sparking a wave of new investment and inspiring a generation of scientists and entrepreneurs across emerging markets. The success of this IPO could serve as a bellwether for the maturation of India's biotech sector, attracting global capital and partnerships. The story of Glenmark and ISB 2001 is still unfolding. The coming years will test whether this breakthrough can survive the gauntlet of clinical trials, regulatory scrutiny, and commercial competition. But whatever the outcome, one thing is clear. The rules of global pharma are changing, and the next era of medical innovation may well be defined by those willing to take risks, challenge assumptions, and look beyond borders. So what do you think? Is Glenmark on the verge of rewriting the narrative of global pharmaceutical innovation? Or will the harsh realities of drug development catch up with them? Can emerging markets become the new epicenter of scientific discovery?